Next, on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
Feeling the spark of wanting to share a deeper message. I spent so much of my childhood and early life and even my first marriage from a real estate standpoint, talk about due diligence. Yeah, that would have been helpful. I've muted myself, Doug. I spent so much of my life muting myself and feeling the desire to say the thing and not saying the thing for fear of being judged or saying it wrong, or mostly just being judged. And who will I be if I lose love from this person or these people or this boss or these colleagues? And that's a terrible place to be. And finally, at this stage of my life, I'm not only ready to unmute myself, but help others to just really tell the deeper stories of their life so that they can leave the legacy that they are here to leave.
Welcome to Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa House, a cool place the nice guys on business will never be invited to, unless it's in the back door and they're serving hors d'oeuvres. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, Nice Guy Community. Professional speaker, real estate expert, and pro podcaster, host of Speaker Reel. I watched today's guest, Cheryl Knowlton, evolve into the serial entrepreneur she is today, who can teach you how to maximize and monetize your gifts. If you need practical, actionable strategies to elevate your game, Cheryl can get you there. Great friend and companion on a roller coaster ride in business and in life. Welcome. Those are your words too. Welcome, Cheryl, to the Nice Guys.
Oh, thank you, Doug. I'm so excited to be here.
I just have one question before we even get rolling into this. Why, now you've been with me as a client for 4 years or so. Why did it take us that long to get you on this show?
I have no idea. Maybe it was because I hadn't yet figured out who I wanted to be when I grow up. And so maybe I'm a little closer than I was 3.5 years ago when I started this journey.
Fair enough. Introduced to TurnKey and to me through a good friend in common, Michelle Villalobos. We've had some good experiences with Michelle. She's done some amazing work, not only with you, but with me as well. And, I think about, something that you just said. Maybe I hadn't figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I don't know that I have grown up, so maybe I haven't figured it out either. How did you turn that corner and maybe decide this is where you want to plant your stake in the ground on? How did you decide that?
I love that question. And I don't know that we have entirely long enough for me to fully share that. But Michelle Villalobos has been my coach for almost 5 years. I can't believe that. Time's fun when we're having flies, for sure.
And that's a good expression.
When I started my journey with her, I was very, very niched, depending on what part of the country we're from, in the real estate industry. And I really wanted to break out of that. And that was my dream and my vision. And you've been on that ride with me. How many times have I changed the direction of my show?
Look, so many, too many to count, but at the same time, but you've stayed so focused at the same time that even in the evolution of Cheryl Knowlton, you still have stayed focused on the prize at the end of the rainbow. And you really, while you may feel like you've been zig and zagging, and I don't know if you're in a zig or a zag right now, you have been leading on this trajectory towards success the entire way through. So I'm curious where you kind of understand that your passion, those gifts that come easiest to you and maybe more challenging to people. When did you realize that that was the thing? Because that, I think, is that corner that you turned when you said evolution. I've now grown up into somebody that knows what they want to do a little bit more clearly.
I love the question. And it was honestly just a couple of weeks ago. I was at one of my local chapter members or meetings of the National Speakers Association. And our speaker, Joe Moll, was talking about deep expertise. Where is your deep expertise? And I, shrug my shoulders, roll my eyes and think, well, I have 25 years in the real estate industry. In June, it'll be 26. But I don't want that. And and it used to be enough, Doug. It used to be what I wanted and what I knew I wanted. And then I went on this zig and zag simultaneously of trying to break out of that, and hearing him speak, and then attending Michelle's retreat a few weeks ago. Just really, she's been encouraging me to lean deeply into my expertise. And instead of rejecting it, I think I'm finally ready to embrace it.
Well, okay. So, but 25 years in real estate, also becoming a national professional speaker, and as an NSA speaker, and a coach. I mean, you've done all three of these things. I know that you have your expertise is in real estate. You have this professionalism as a speaker, and you also have this ability to coach people in a way that is digestible and understandable for them, which is challenging for so many people. Put up a shingle called a coach, and they just can't bring that home to clear deliverables for their clients. So of those three things, how do you combine all three of those? Because you do, and do what you do, and make it feel like it's only one thing, because you really do that and do it well.
Oh, my stars. You're hired as my new PR director. Need you. Thank you for that. I'll start with the coaching side. I know that I come alive on stage. I know that I love to entertain and edutain an audience, not necessarily as a keynoter. My big joke about myself is that I didn't keynote for the first 20 years of my speaking career because it takes me half an hour to introduce myself, which is almost true. And I love teaching really practical skills-based workshops for real estate professionals. I knew that I loved that, thought that I wanted to go more of the keynote route, spent a lot of time, energy, and effort and money learning how to do that. And I only to discover, isn't that interesting? This isn't my sweet spot. This isn't what I love. And it was about that time that I met Michelle, and seeing the way that she coaches me and the coaches that she has as part of her program, I love the way that I was coached. And through Michelle, I met someone who was getting certified as a coach. And I thought, I want that. I'm shocked to know that I love it so much. I want the certification and the credentials to go with it. No, at that point, kind of to prove my worth a little bit. Now, thankfully, I have successfully graduated from an ICF, International Coaching Federation program, but I don't need it to prove my worth anymore. I just know I love the big stage. And I also love working with one individual at a time, because I can go much deeper one individual at a time to really listen. Becoming certified as a coach made me a much better listener, made me a better spouse. It made me a better wife and mother. Grammy to 14. We talk about growing up. Hey, if I have 14 grandchildren, I figure if I haven't grown up at this point, I don't have to.
I love it. So talk to me about what are some of the symptoms that somebody would experience in order for them to feel like, Cheryl is the one that I need to go to really resolve that. Because we have chatted about three different areas in your life. We talked about coaching, we talked about real estate, we talked about professional speaking. I want to get everybody in my audience to key in on something that they know that they're experiencing, so that they know that you are potentially the healer for that symptom that ails them.
Wow. Again, thank you for the PR bit there. In terms of coaching, I mostly work with real estate rock stars to help them ignite their brilliance. And I also love working with leaders to help them ignite their team's brilliance. And I'm certified in the Enneagram and in ProScan, having been adopted at birth, studying deeply personality, not from a collegiate getting a degree in psychology standpoint, but from a looking at all the multifacets of human design, and not human design is an actual thing, but not everything but that, pretty much. And I'm not certified in DISC, but pretty much everything else. We are all multifaceted diamonds, and looking at that. And so in answer to your question, there's two types of coaching that I do: helping real estate rock stars, helping teams to really come together and to figure out the unique strengths and weaknesses of individuals on the team and the team itself as they come together. Mm-hmm. And also I do an annual retreat for speakers, but that's a very specific in-person application process because we only accept 12 into the program.
No worries. So here is let me ask another question, or ask that in a slightly different way. The environments that you work within are very high performance. You know, you deal with
Yes.
real estate rock stars. You said you also
Yep.
deal with people that have no hesitation getting up on a stage and speaking. Professional speakers. There's got to be some commonalities between the high performance real estate folks and those that are have the ego enough to be able to get up on a stage, and the expertise to be able to get up on the stage. What common thread is there, do you think? You might not know, but what do you think is the common thread that leads from real estate professionals that are rock stars and professional speakers that are also, that high achieving type of personality?
The spark, feeling the spark of wanting to share a deeper message. I spent so much of my childhood and early life, and even my first marriage, from a real estate standpoint, talk about due diligence.
Mm.
Yeah, that would have been helpful. Uh, I've muted myself, Doug. I spent so much of my life muting myself and feeling the desire to say the thing and not saying the thing for fear of being judged or saying it wrong, or mostly just being judged. And who will I be if I lose love from this person or these people or this boss or these colleagues? And that's a terrible place to be. And finally, at this stage of my life, I'm not only ready to unmute myself, but help others to just really tell the deeper stories of their life so that they can leave the legacy that they are here to leave.
Well, isn't it ironic that the thing that you excel at is the thing that held you back for all of those years in whatever challenged marriage or relationships that you were in, and you're helping speakers get their voice out. You are helping real estate rock stars amplify their message and get their services out to the world even more. And the other thing is, which we haven't even talked about at any length other than in my intro, is that you also have a podcast that gets your message out to the world as well. Do you think it's a little bit serendipitous that you have this platform or these platforms to amplify your message that much louder because of what you experienced earlier in life?
Absolutely. And honestly, I mean, yes, this is the Doug Show, but you've gotten my podcast to be in the top 10% of all podcasts on the planet. That's a huge, huge thing. And now we're at, this week, we're at 150 episodes, which is so amazing. Almost 11,000 downloads. And I really credit three significant ingredients in that recipe for success. It is hiring the right production team, which is you. I was just referring you to somebody else earlier today. It is the quality of my amazing guests, their willingness to show up, their willingness to unmute themselves and to answer the hard questions. And we talk about everything from being, I look at my top 3 episodes and they're so different. One is on leadership. One is on how to dress for your type. That's number 2. And my fabulous House of Color gal. And the number 3 was my episode that I did on the 10 lies I told myself when I was married to my first husband, who had bipolar disorder. And being married to someone who has a mental illness is its own absolute challenge. And I love the fact that by unmuting myself and sharing it through my podcast, that it has resonated with so many people. It's the only episode that I hear back from people about, which I find fascinating. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cheryl, keep going. And the last one is consistency. Yeah. You would know the stats so much better than I do, but the last stat I heard is that the vast majority, something like 80% of individuals who have the dream and the goal and the vision and the desire to start a podcast, start the show and don't make it to 10 episodes.
It's crazy. It is crazy. And then the majority, over 90% of them have been inactive, which means they haven't produced an episode in the last 90 days, which to me is ridiculous. There's 3.4 million podcasts that are put out there. You're in the top 10% of the podcasts with 150 episodes. What I love so much about your podcast, and I have a great opportunity because I'm the behind the scenes guy at producing the show. So my editing team will share oftentimes episodes that come across their desk, and you have real conversations with professional people. and they're real people. And you can't do that necessarily on a stage where you're delivering a keynote or a 45-minute long presentation. You can't do that necessarily in a coaching program where you're really trying to get to the meat of it. You've showed up for 150 weeks and done this podcast and had these great conversations. How you get people, I listened to some of the questions that you ask. And by the way, Nice Guy Community, I'll put a link in the show notes so that you have access to the Speaker Reel podcast as well, that Cheryl show. But you get people to answer the craziest questions, which is great because you trick them into having a real authentic conversations, which is the best thing. It's not trickery. It's just legitimately what you do. You bring out the ease of people having conversations with you. Isn't that fun?
It's so much fun. And you're so right. When it's just me on a stage with a microphone, that's its own form of fun. But being able to really magnify the brilliance of amazing people that I am privileged to know, from Hall of Fame speakers to the CEO of the #1 Century 21 office in the world, and so many incredible coaches and speakers and friends, for me to give them a platform to magnify their brilliance is its own kind of fire.
That is awesome. And I'm so excited to listen to more. And, talking about getting in touch with the untouchables through your podcast, you have some great guests and some leaders in real estate and in professional speaking as well. We have not gotten him on the schedule officially yet, but just today from Grant Cardone's team, he reached out to our production team and said, "Hey, we have some topics that we want to talk about. We were recommended to get on your show. So how can Grant schedule it?" I'm like, "Okay, well, let's figure out how to get Grant." I don't have any time for Grant Cardone. I'm too busy talking to Gary Vaynerchuk right now. So some of that stuff is so cool to be able to get in touch and be able to have conversations with people that would normally, if you're paying to be in an audience that Gary V or Ariana Huffington or Grant Cardone is delivering a message to, you might pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to be in that audience. And you get to have, as a podcast host, a 30 or 45-minute conversation with these rock stars. That's got to feel good. Those Century 21 VIPs that you've had on the show and those other professionals that you've had on the show, sometimes you can't get in touch with these people unless you have a platform to put them on. And podcasting, for me, and I'm assuming for you too, creates that wonderful platform to do it. How do you feel about that?
I could not agree more. And I love shining a spotlight on others. It absolutely lights me up. And especially for newer or emerging speakers, or someone who is just trying to find their voice and test out their message, to be able to shine a spotlight on them and allow them the privilege of the platform to be able to share their message is magical. I love that.
Yeah, you had mentioned the VIPs, and we all talk about the VIPs because they're the gets. They're the ones that are really good to have on the show. Honestly, though, the best people to have on the show is the normal people that are early on, even in their career, so that you can get them to open up, have a conversation. And then what's really nice is when you have them back 3 or 4 or 5 years later. In our case, in next month, as of actually the airing of this episode, we will be celebrating our 10 years as podcasters, 1,600 episodes, which is crazy to think that we've been doing it that long. I want to go back to something that you said just a few minutes ago, and I'm hoping I'm not opening up a tender subject. If I am, then we'll edit it out and no problem, and you guys won't even hear this as you're listening, Nice Guy Community. You mentioned that you were adopted.
Yes.
And before I hit record, you also mentioned that you've whether recently or maybe in the past, came across some siblings that you really didn't even realize that you had. And I can relate 100%. I have half siblings, half sisters and brothers that I did not even realize. I was actually contacted by the grandchild of someone whose dad they thought was my dad also. They asked me if I would take a DNA test because our dad has passed away in the 90s. And I said, I have all these half siblings that are running around already that I don't contact. I don't need to know of a half brother that I have. I'm not going to take the paternity test, but I wish you a lot of luck. So my life is a soap opera as well. So I'm hoping I'm not opening up a too tender subject, but I'm curious how your position as a child of adopted parents, of parents that adopted you, how do you feel like that shaped your life?
Oh my gosh.
How much time do I have?
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at the clock. How much time do I have? It wasn't being adopted that created a hole in my heart. My amazing parents, my adoptive parents, had been trying for 13 years to have me. And when they were able to adopt me, I was their only child, Doug. I was the center of the universe.
Wow.
Copernicus called and verified this fact. Um, and they weren't wealthy by worldly standards, but I wanted for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just surrounded and immersed and marinating in love and attention every day. And I that's when my little personality really started to come out. And for other people judging that, would have called me a show off. But my parents gave me such a stage in our living room that every single thing that I said and did was the most delightful thing that any human had ever said in the history of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my mother died.
Mm.
She died a few weeks before my 5th birthday. And my poor dad, bless his heart, he didn't know what to do, didn't know how to handle it. This was not what he signed up for in life. And he started dating right away. And there was a parade of lovely ladies vying for the opportunity to marry him or not. Few that we got close to that were not a fit. And then my dad ultimately selected my stepmom.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like there was a challenge there.
Yeah, very much so, because she didn't announce until after the nuptials that she detested children. And a few weeks after they were married, suggested to my dad, hey, she's not yours anyway. Why don't we just send her back to the adoption agency?
No.
Well, yeah. I was in my 40s before my dad told me that.
Wow. Okay. So did that happen?
My dad did not send me back to the adoption agency.
Okay,
no,
that's
but
good. That's good.
I wound up living with another family for 9.5 years. And so during the week, and I'd go home on weekends and for holidays. And it was a very, very strange dynamic. And I had to become someone else in order to fit in there. And they were lovely people. And I am very close to them to this day. I adore them. If they ever happen to come across this episode, I'm so grateful for that opportunity to be raised in a family. But then going home on weekends, it was really, really weird. Then my dad took early retirement from the federal government after my 9th grade year. And then I feel like I somehow got to become who I actually was.
Yeah.
That I didn't have to throttle back or mute myself anymore. I could just fully be very self-expressed in the world. And then I married my first husband very young, and we started down the journey of having our 4 children. I didn't know who I was, Doug. I did not know who I was. And so just recognizing that after I finally had the strength to break out of that marriage, I really started to become fascinated by the study of personality. And that's when I really started to deep dive in that. Now, having met both of my birth parents and siblings on both sides, the whole conversation is fascinating to me. Who am I? Where did I come from, but where did I get this set of personality traits? And if you were to talk to my birth father, he proudly proclaims that every single characteristic that I have that makes me money came from him.
What a profound and wonderful story about the evolution of Cheryl Knowlton that helped shape all of the things that you have as your gifts, the things that potentially could have been wounds, you've found a way, as I know you for the last several years, Cheryl, have turned everything in your life into a positive, even some of the negative challenges that have gone on in your life. And Nice Guy Community could not think of a better way for you to get what you need to out of life to maximize and monetize what's going on in your life. Take advantage of the opportunity to meet with Cheryl and get in front of her and see what she can do to help you. If you have a story that you feel is challenging, all you have to do is talk to Cheryl and realize, look, people go through shit in life, and Cheryl's gone through a lot of shit, but she's the one that can help dig you out. You don't want the person that has had a straight trajectory from childhood to success in a straight line. You want somebody like Cheryl to help you, because God knows that you have had your trials and tribulations through life and that you have overcome many of them. And I so appreciate you being able to share like that part of your life and share it knowing that you can help other people get through the crap that they're going through in their life as well.
You're so sweet, Doug. And I mean, ultimately it is pretty human, pretty much human nature and part of our experience in life as humans to go through really hard, challenging things. And our challenges are what connect us. And most of us are very, very inspired by a rags to riches story, or, rising above, and Rudy, and it's football season, all of those amazing things. And I've just come to realize that cow manure makes great fertilizer.
One of the things I want to talk about before we wrap up, this is just another testament to the person that you are. You've completed 32, probably more by this point, 32 half marathons, and you're aiming for 65 for your 65th birthday, which shouldn't be a challenge because you still have 30 years before you get there. So
I love you. Thank you.
How does that discipline and goal setting actually carry over to like the other parts in your life? But I want you to spend just a second talking about that goal of 65 half
it's
marathons.
Idiotic. It's absolutely idiotic. I grew up thinking that running was a form of punishment. And then I was at a half marathon at the finish line for my two oldest daughters, and I was electrified by the energy. And I said, I'm going to do this. And that was the goal, to do one, which turned into kind of an obsession. And unfortunately, no, there is not more. I've done 32 at this point, but I didn't start running until I was north of my 40th birthday. I want to say I was probably around 45 by the time I started running. So we're getting there, and I do have a ways to go. And there's just so many parallels. And ultimately, just to keep it brief, there are always going to be things that are going to move the needle for us, and we're never going to feel like doing it. And the key is to show up and to be committed enough to the goal and the dream that we do it even when we don't feel like doing it, that the discipline rules the day, and that discipline rules my emotions instead of ice cream. I mean, I love both Ben and Jerry. They're dear friends. They're amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I do love Ben and Jerry's myself. So I want to give those in our community an action item, especially to the entrepreneurs that are out there that are thinking about, man, she's been through a lot in her life. However, she's turned a lot of this around, and she still has goals that she wants to accomplish, even though she's overcome so much in her life. Cheryl, you've overcome so much. Talk to our entrepreneurs that are in a phase of their career where they're maybe thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I heading in the right direction on my path? Is there an action item or a motivational or inspirational something that we can leave them with?
I love that. And I would say, yeah, absolutely. Of course. I recently had breakfast with George Morris, the CEO of Century 21 Everest Realty Group. And he was on the show before, and he'll be on an episode that you and I will air in March. And I had just gone through something really, really, really hard and very eye-opening in terms of all the decisions that I allowed to be attached to this stupid thing, this stupid event. And he looked at me over the table with pancake detritus all over. And he looked at me in the eye and he said, "What are your dreams?" And that sounded kind of, if you take that wrong, it'd be, yeah. But he said, by the end of today, I want you to give me 5 of your dreams. I want you to text me and tell me what they are. And I came home and I really had to think about that, because I realized I had meandered down the road and I had lost track of where is my finish line? What is my finish line? What do I really want to achieve at the end of, whenever and life is done? What legacy do I want to leave for my family, for my industry? What really matters most? And so I did that. So that would be my action item for our listeners, is to discover one really, really important life goal and share it with someone, because you never know who you're going to ignite through your recognition of that dream of yours. And then post it everywhere, on your bathroom mirror, in your office, all over the place, so that you're reminded constantly, so you don't forget like I did. And then set one goal with a deadline by the end of the year, that when we come back a year from now, what will we be celebrating? What did you actually do as a result of really connecting that goal to that dream?
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate that, and I am a true advocate for the goal setting thing. For the last 5 or 6 years, My girlfriend and I, JJ, we have been putting together our yearly goals, the things that we are our superpowers, the biggest influences in our life, all of the things that I think are financial goals, health goals, spiritual goals, emotional goals, all of the things that we think that we need to accomplish in the upcoming year. To be able to look back, as Cheryl said, if you set the goal, you can put it in front of you and you can use that as your North Star no matter what's going on in your life. And man, it's amazing how much more you can accomplish. And if you don't set a goal and you've done some great things, that's great too, but you don't know how much more you could accomplish if you actually put something down on paper or some sort of picture or something as a reminder to remind you that you need to get there. So I 100% agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. If our listeners, Nice Guy community, if they wanted to get more information about you or how to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out, Cheryl?
Most likely my website. And that is my first and last name, CherylKnowlton.com. And in the top right-hand corner of every single page on the website is my actual cell phone number. I was taught by one of my mentors, make yourself available as a professional speaker, and don't be hard to work with. Don't be hard to get a hold of. And so you can text me. I believe my social media handles are all on there, and you can connect right through the website. And love to connect with anyone.
It's right on there, and she is in. I don't know what that color is. It's like fuchsia. Is that what bright? I don't want to call it red because it's so much more than red. You stand out pretty nicely on that page with your blue black background. What is that color called? I don't know.
You'd have to ask my graphic designer, but for me, we call it electric blue and Barbie pink. So.
Yeah, but I was going to say Barbie, but I did not want to because you have blonde hair. I didn't want to make too many assumptions here or say Barbie because I know some people in today's day and age they would assume that would be offensive. But you do have a Barbie persona that comes across on your website. So get to Cheryl's website, Nice Guy Community. Cheryl, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so open and honest and genuine in our conversation today. Thanks for being on the Nice Guys.
Oh, thank you so much for all that you do for me, Doug, and for all that you do for my show. And thank you for the fabulous fun chat today.
Thanks, Cheryl. Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Cheryl Knowlton. All of her information, including access to her website and all of her goodies, are right there on the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. And may the force be with them. They need all the help they can get.